Helps if you unmute yourself, doesn't it? Hello, and welcome back to All for United. My name's Simon. I'm here with Reese, Gav, and we're expecting Kai tonight on this show where we're going to be looking back at the Crystal Palace game and wondering, are Manchester United the best team in the world? I think they might be. But first and foremost, guys, we're near our 6,000 subscriber aim on YouTube. I think we've got 70 more to go. So if you are watching on our Twitter currently, or you're watching on Facebook or wherever, or you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribing and help us get to that mark before the start of the season. We've got 3 weeks to do it. 70 people. I think we can do it, can't we, guys? So without further ado, though, let's talk about the game and the main subject, which caused a little bit of a flurry of conversation, shall we say, on Twitter when the post was put out earlier. Who's it going to be starting the season? Is it going to be Martial? Is it going to be Ronaldo? Is that who's Eric Ten Hag going to prefer? Because I think a lot of people were quite quick to come back and say that, you know, Ronaldo is Ronaldo and he should be in the no matter what Martial's doing in this pre-season. But what's kind of your take on it, Reece? So what are you thinking? I know you're a big fan of Ronaldo anyway, but what have you been thinking of Martial's performances so far?
Been great, haven't they? I mean, I'm a big fan of Martial, to be quite honest, as well. And as much as the season that he had last season, I felt like he didn't really get a good run, did he? I think he the only time I remember him sort of coming in and getting a start was against, I think it was at Everton, where he scored, and then I think he came off at half time, from what I recall. But I think generally Martial, I mean, you look at his 2018-2019 season when he got those goals and had that kind of partnership with Rashford, and we know he's a massive player in there. He's a huge talent, and he's playing with a smile on his face. I think we've all said before that if Martial gets, comes with that kind of right attitude and right feeling, that his talent will come with it. Recall back to that pre-season we had where he scored that. It might have been the 2018-19 season, where in an unbelievable pre-season that year, and we went against Real Madrid and he did that unbelievable shimmy through 2 or 3 players and scored that wonderful goal. He's an unreal talent, and I think he just needs to be trusted enough in a certain position. Do I think he's a number 9? I think he got sort of tested in that position with Ollie, and I wasn't convinced. I always felt like he was more suited to a wider position. But look, on Ronaldo, and we're not comparing Ronaldo and Martial. I don't think any of us are really doing that. I think what we're doing is comparing what's the best for United in the position that we need them 2 players to play for his next season. What's going to benefit the team, and I think what's going to benefit the team is somebody.
Oops.
I apologise. I seem to have landed in Need for Speed 2 on the PlayStation, so I apologise.
Classic.
I just got a new spoiler and a set of wheels, but there we go. So I apologise for that, guys. Yeah.
It will happen again because it's happened about 5 times since we've been on.
Yeah. I did ask him to slow down, but it seems to have taken the opposite effect. So in terms of comparing the 2 players, we're not doing that, are we? I mean, what we're hoping to do is get the best out of anybody, like Martial or Ronaldo, in that position. Ronaldo has made it clear, or he's making it clear so far, that he's got other ideas, other ventures. He's not been in pre-season so far. He's not trained with the team. Martial has done those things, so he's showing all the right things to Ten Hag that you would do as a player, as a professional, and everything's pointing in the sort of right direction. I'm sure if Ronaldo was to come back to training and was to get involved in pre-season and was to do well, then we'd be having a debate and we would be comparing. At this moment in time, Martial's winning that race because Martial's in pre-season. He's performing in pre-season. He's been training with the team. It's unfair to sort of suggest that Ronaldo's going to come in last minute and take that mantle off him. So for me, Martial's done nothing wrong, and he deserves every chance that he gets so far, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, he's doing the right things by being there is one of the main things, isn't it? Obviously, Ronaldo isn't there, so he's also learning what Ten Hag wants early doors, whereas whenever Ronaldo joins up, if he ever does join up, he's weeks behind on that front, plus the match fitness and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, a fit guy, but there's levels to it, isn't there? He needs to be involved now, really, to be involved at the start of the season, if you're asking me. But Kai, we'll come to you. What have you kind of thought of Martial's form in this early days in pre-season? Obviously, we're not saying that necessarily the answer or is better than Ronaldo or this or that, but is this version of Anthony Martial better suited to Erik Ten Hag's team, or do you still believe that Ronaldo could come and slot straight back in?
Look, I'm a firm believer. Firstly, hello lads, how's everyone
Hello.
doing? Hope everyone's doing good. Um, yeah, I'm a firm firm believer that Ronaldo needs to stay away from the team as far away as possible. Um, I'm sorry, I've started calling him number seven now. I can't even say his name anymore um, because like we need to be very honest to each other over here. Like it's not even about past glories or anything about that, but when you see Martial, and I'm not even the biggest fan of him yet because I have some reservations about him, but when you see the dynamic of the team, it is different. There is more of a dynamic. Now, when we watch teams like City, like Liverpool, especially in the Premier League, there's one thing that we know. Even when Chelsea need to compete in those big games, what did they do? They had to drop Lukaku no matter what. And they had to play with a more mobile front, whatever. Now, that's not what Ronaldo can offer. And it's okay to say that it's not, he hasn't, he's never been like that and all of that. But time is also something which is important to notice, which is he's old now. So physically, it's hard to do what Ten Hag wants him to do in the game. Sebastian Haller was someone who wouldn't be doing as much pressing as all that and all of that, but he's young, so he still has some sort of mobility and he still has some sort of legs to last that long. And that is what we want. And that is obviously my reservation with Martial on the mental side, not the physical side, but the mental side. Can he last 50 games in the season? Can he last in the games which really matter? And that is the only thing which says, for example, now we need some depth. If we bring in a striker, what happens to Martial's confidence again? Right? Does he become the shell, or does he, continue to work hard, you know? And I don't know what Ten Hag has promised Martial because, of course, they've had conversations. So it's not just going to be like Ronaldo turns up and everything is, completely changed. I'm sure they've had conversations because that's good man management. You have to talk about what are you going to do on August 7th, even if Ronaldo shows up fit as a fiddle. And, it is complicated. You've heard the players talking about it. Donny's talked about the complications of that role. And it's not to say Ronaldo doesn't have the football IQ for it, but he needs to learn what actually the system requires of him now because he hasn't played in a system like this. He hasn't played in a system which is a positional play where everyone has a specific role to play and they have to do it, or else if they don't do it, the whole team is screwed. He hasn't played like that before. It's all been about how do we service Ronaldo, and now it won't be like that. So it's also the first time that he's also in that sort of a thing which says we're now in modern football whereby we need 11 men on the pitch. Even De Gea, we need him on the pitch doing something with the ball. So I think for me, that's where I stand with those two things. I just want Ronaldo to be like Ibrahimovic. I just want him to say, okay, I am a lion or whatever, but I get injured for half the season and I'm just going to be this leader to this youthful group of guys. If Leao's playing, I'm just going to be there for him. If I need to be there for 15 minutes, I'm going to lift a Scudetto. I'm going to lift what's it called, a Syria type. And then that's all. And then everyone looks at me and says, you're a goat. Like literally, that's all Ronaldo needs to do. He does not need to be in every single game. He just needs to humble himself.
But he's not going to, is he?
That's the problem. And that's what I'm saying. Like, why would a 37-year-old not say I am slower? And Ben Me can run versus Ronaldo and easily get the ball. And that is the issue for me. Martial will get past him. So those types of things, you just have to think about and say, I don't know, like it's not shitting on Ronaldo, sorry, my language. It's not saying Ronaldo is terrible, but it's just saying that right now what we need is youth to a certain degree.
Yeah. I would personally tend to agree with that. But I think I made my thoughts kind of clear on what I thought Ronaldo did to the side and how cohesive it was last season. But I think people disagree with me. Gav, I think you may have been one of the people that disagree with me on that one. Would you say that it is still Ronaldo's spot, or is Martial giving up enough of a case to at least be in there at the start of the season for the Brighton game?
Well, first of all, Need for Speed Most Wanted for the win. I look at Anthony Martial and I see he's a confidence player. When we see him playing his best is when he's feeling confident. When he's feeling confident is when he's not getting challenged for his position. Whenever he's being challenged for his position, that's when we've seen him sort of disappear and not be the player that we know that he is. What we've seen over this pre-season is that confidence player, the smile on his face, the tricks, the smooth transitions, the link-up play that we sort of saw from him in that 18-19 season.
Yeah.
I worry that if Ronaldo does stay, which it's looking very likely that it could be, is he going to be happy as backup should Ronaldo walk straight back into the team? Now, picking up on what Kai just said about pace and things like that, it was only in the Euros where Ronaldo was defending a header and then sprinted the full length of the pitch to then get on the end of an, I think he either assisted for Bruno or he scored the goal. And they timed how long it took him to do that. And you think of his age and you think, well, he's too old. But Ronaldo isn't like any other 37-year-old. Yes, he might have limitations based on his age, but I still think that he is capable of doing that role that Eric Ten Hag wants, because otherwise Eric would say, well, I'm happy for him to go. He clearly feels that he's competent enough to learn the system. And, you know, he's definitely, like Kyson's got the footballing IQ to pick it up. But whether he starts that first game, I think he's had too much time on the sideline. I do think he will eventually walk back into the team. But when you've got somebody who's 3-3, who's playing with confidence, you've got that fluidity of the front three. I mean, a lot of people sort of got twisted up with the semantics of the title for this video. This isn't about who's the best player, who's the better player. This is about who fits the system, who is going to be more capable at the beginning of the season to basically give us the best start. And right now, you've got to say that because of the amount of time that Ronaldo's had on the sideline and because of the way that Tony is playing up front with that fluidity of the two, Jadon Sancho and Martial, he's got to have that shirt. He's got to have that start.
Yeah, like I said, even mostly because of his Ronaldo not being there as well, I think is a big thing. But yeah, I think the fluidity is a major factor in this argument. Really, we saw a completely different style of play from United last season, where often we're just lumping it into the box. Sometimes it works. So I mean, some of the biggest and best moments came from Ronaldo last season. Admittedly, that header, you know, in the Champions League was a brilliant moment. Came from that style of play. But it's my personal preference that we see these one-touch football that we saw against Crystal Palace, where that's United goals for me. And I would like to see more of that, and I'm just not sure that we can pull that off with Ronaldo in the side. What do you think about that, Reece? Do you think he's capable of the one-touch stuff and the kind of slick football, week in, week out, game after game?
I don't.
Well, it's an argument that Martial can't either, but
I think he's got the ability in his game to do that. I think that the problem is not necessarily his style a little bit, but it's more this stuff off the field, isn't it? And his personality and everything that he brings with being Ronaldo. I think there's been a lot of talk that he puts undue, not direct pressure, but indirect pressure on the other members of his team, just by simply being there. You know, in terms of what he's eating, what he's doing, how he conducts himself, the pressure he puts on people in training. You know, I can imagine it's quite distracting, and you know, he's at an age now where he's a generation past most of these players coming through, and we've got a great opportunity with not just, you know, Martial, who's now kind of middle ground in terms of his career, and he needs to be in those heights that we expect from him, because what is he, 25, 26, a little bit older, I can't remember off the top of my head. But we genuinely need to, you know, be getting the best out of these type of players now, especially like people like Rashford. You know, Rashford's coming, 23, 24. We can't be wasting another year, which I felt like we did last season. You know, we went into pre-season last year, was really positive. I think the last game of the season was Everton at home, won 4-0, looked comfortable, had a good style of play. Went into the first 2 games of the season, did pretty well, and then Ronaldo comes in, and it's great. It's brilliant for all the fans, and for, I said this on another show before that. You know, I took my lad to Old Trafford, my little boy, and he got the opportunity to see Ronaldo at Old Trafford in a Man United shirt. You know, that's amazing. That is amazing. It's a great story. But in terms of the team and the progression and us being a good footballing team, it's not the way forward, and that's the unfortunate thing. Now we look at this as fans and go, "Oh, Ronaldo's like throwing his teddies out of the pram, and he's on vacation, and he's with his family, and he's not wanting to be with the team, and him and Ten Hag are not getting on." We're naive if we all think that. Ronaldo's a professional. He's got professionals around him. Eric Ten Hag's a professional. He's managing a massive club. They'll have been speaking, and they'll have been speaking about the future in terms of where he wants to go and whether Ronaldo fits into that. And Ronaldo will also be telling him what he wants out of next year. Ronaldo's not somebody who's thinking, what am I doing next week? He's thinking, what am I doing in 6 months, in a year's time? And it'll have definitely been on the agenda come last season. So as soon as Ten Hag had come in, at some point they'll have had a series of conversations, and he just said, look, this is my take on it. This is what I want to do. With all respect, I'm sure there was a good level of respect and a conversation there between the two of them. Obviously, from our point of view, we just see it as a player doesn't want to train, he wants to go. The manager's fallen out with him, and it's all up in the air. But I don't believe that. I think Ronaldo's enough of a professional, and he's been around the block far and enough times to do it in the right way, and especially with United, I'm sure he wants to leave that dynasty in the right sort of way. But we've got to move on. The fact that we did waste the year last year. We did. And if you look at it, we did. There was opportunities across the season where we could have really competed in stuff. Possibly not won stuff. I'm not going to say we should have won things, but definitely competed. You know, in the FA Cup, we should have done better, and we threw it away, in my opinion. The Champions League, okay, it wasn't a cup we were going to necessarily win, but we could have given a better account of ourselves. You know, in the Atletico Madrid game, it was there for the taking, and we seemed to sort of throw it away. League Cup, we went out a little bit soft. It was, there were just moments where I thought we could have done better, and I felt that pre-season there was an opportunity where we were building a team and a philosophy with these younger players, where we had that. You know, we've kind of had this year, and we've gone through this year where we've kind of tried to focus the team around one individual. It's not worked out, and we're getting back to where we were a year ago, prior to last season, where potentially we're building this young team again, and we're bringing in even better players. You know, Sancho's had a year under his belt. You know, potentially we're going to be bringing in, you know, a few other players, as well as Martinez and Malacia as well. And Martial's back after a dismal loan spell, but he looks better in pre-season. Donny looks good in pre-season. It's good. It's a good an encouraging sign. So Ronaldo was just that last kind of figurehead of a Woodward area, isn't he? I think, unfortunately.
I will just say though, 18 goals in that United team is still a good return for a 37-year-old who did miss quite a few games. He had a dry spell, but you know, I don't think it was just Ronaldo that was sort of the figurehead of what the problems were last season. I think that he was holding the club up to a standard that just wasn't there. And it came from a number of players that just at points down tools players that you wouldn't normally expect. So I think with the work ethic that Ten Hag is putting into the team, it's sort of raising those levels back to something that Ronaldo would expect of himself. You've seen the rules, and they're breaking rules, they get punishments, kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that when Ronaldo came in, he was saying about the training ground, the swimming pool, the canteen, all these different things, the way he trains, the way he eats. Well, it seems like Eric is doing exactly the same thing. So if anything, it's sort of bringing the club up to the level that Ronaldo is putting himself at.
Yeah, I just think the main thing about that is whether he fits in with the style of football. I don't think anybody questions the fact that he's bringing standards back to a club and the right mentality with players, etc., etc. I don't think it's any of that. I think it's simply the style of football that we have to play with Ronaldo does not suit the vast majority of our squad that were doing well previous to him coming. And I think there's signs. I'm not saying it's definite or anything because we're not getting too excited over preseason. I know people are pointing out in the comments that we're getting excited about preseason, but we're not. But there is glimmers of that one-touch fast football that we used to play 18 months ago that we just didn't play last season. And there's no doubt from my perspective that Ronaldo was a factor in that. But we're going to move on from that little bit anyway now because we don't want to exhaust Ronaldo and Martial chat. I just wanted to talk more about the front three in general because they scored some lovely goals on Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday morning, wasn't it? Kai, did you watch the game on Tuesday? I'm presuming you did. Yeah. What was your favourite one of those goals? I mean, because there was some nice football in there. Rashford's was a nice little move, and Sancho's obviously a nice counter-attacking goal. Is that the sort of stuff you want to see more of as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Those goals are, basically they show exactly how Ten Hag trains his players every single training. So all those little snippets of the drills which they do, and everyone pretty much laughs at on social media and stuff. That's pretty much what they come up to, and they are practiced in all small spaces which are meant to obviously represent a certain part of the pitch. So essentially, when you see the ball going from keeper to the middle to this side to that side, everyone is in their position doing exactly what they're meant to do in whatever role that they're given. So I do think that me as a coach myself, I would be smiling if I saw that because the kind of goal that you see maybe like you see that kind of play maybe 5-6 times throughout the whole game because the other team has figured it out by the first 2 times that you've done it. So essentially you'd have to sort of spice it up again unless you have technically superior players like City do, which means that they just keep on doing the exact same thing over and over and you can't really stop it, which is the level which we're trying to get at, which is obviously I think why we're trying to get Frankie de Jong, because once we put players with that level of technique in this system, then you start seeing us transitioning to being, that sort of a team. So I do think that the build-up play was fantastic. The front three, and I mean, he says it himself in the interviews. Eric Ten Hag, he says that the intention is to press all day. That's what he says. No matter what happens, whether it's a high block, whether in a low block, their intention is to read the game, but they train to press all day. And what is it that Liverpool do? They press pretty much all day long. What is it that City do? They press pretty much all day long. So these are pretty much modern principles which he's trying to bring across, which I think we saw a lot of in terms of where we win the ball. And then you see Maguire and Lindelof had so much time to be able to also play the ball from those higher positions, more line breaking passes. And so I just think with that front three moving, if they continue to move, and that's the thing, they have to last the whole season doing the exact same thing. Rashford can't sleep. He can't hang his head in shame because something happened. This type of a system is a high chance creation system. So Eric Ten Hag's team score a lot of goals. So there's no need to hang your head in shame. You just have to go in the next one, do the exact same thing, create another chance, score. And that's exactly what City and those teams do. So I think that's the mentality shift that our front three needs. They need to grow up and say it doesn't matter if they miss a chance. they just create another one, and they just keep on going. So I think it's a lot. There's still a lot to do, especially mentally in that system. But I think on the pitch, they're getting it. You can see they understand, because they're actually. It seems like they get the system anyways. It seems like they get the 4-2-3-1 sort of a shape. It seems like they understand how to move. So it's just now about doing it every single game, which is United's issue. It's varies. Some days it's good, some days it's not good. So I think that is the next thing for Ten Hag is every single game we must be pressing for 90 minutes, creating chances the same way over and over until it becomes a given that when you come to Old Trafford, you're going to get smashed in the exact same way. So that's essentially what Erik Ten Hag is, I think, trying to do as well. Create that sort of a culture which says we will play the exact same way.
Gav, we'll move back onto you then. What did you like from the performance on Tuesday? When like Kai didn't answer me which goal was his favourite, but I'll let him off. What was your favourite goal from what you saw? Like we said, the Sancho goal was a great break, and the Rashford goal was just a nice little team move, which does show good understanding and movement between all of the front players. I mean, they're all involved in the goals at some point.
Just replying to Marius in the comments as it sort of fits this topic, it's not so much excitement over the preseason games themselves, it's how they're actually playing. If you watch the transitions, like Kai was talking about, how we're passing through the midfield, getting all the players involved, there's a more measured approach to how they're getting from defense to goal, to the point where when a long ball was taken, I think it was De Gea that kicked it, he got a bit of a rollicking. What I tweeted something along the lines of the build-up to our goals has been massively improved. One of the things that you could pick up on over the last 12 months, maybe a bit more, is the lack of chance creation for the striker, whether it be number 11, he who shall not be named, Cavani or Ronaldo. What's happened over these, especially the last game against Palace, was almost going back to that Rashford, Martial, number 11 partnership with Bruno behind them. There was a fluidity and pace and just all round pass, get the chance, tuck it away. Don't get it this time, you know another one's going to come along. And the thing I liked about it is Bruno seems to have dialed back trying the sort of Hollywood passes where he's spraying balls across the pitch. He's very much, right, I'm going to take the simple pass. And when Donny came on, he echoed that. And that's why I love the Rashford goal. That second half, when Donny came on, you can see why Donny fits that Ajax system, because he's got that IQ, that ability to ping that ball around, get the striker, get the wingers involved, and everybody knows their position. And if they lose the ball, they press as a team. Very high up the pitch as well. It's not excitement about the preseason games. It's excitement about the way the players are adapting to how he wants them to play. That's where the excitement is. We have a style of play. Everybody knows what they're doing when they're with the ball and when they're without the ball. And every single goal that's been scored on preseason so far, regardless of who we've scored it against, has had build up to it. And that's what people are sort of trying to highlight. It's not getting carried away. Yes, it is only preseason. Yes, Liverpool, it was their first game. You know, it's just seeing his philosophy starting to take form before the season kicks in.
Yeah, I fully agree. Kai, you're just going to quickly butt in there, and then I'll come to you, Reese.
No, I just wanted to say, actually, if you see, funny enough, Bruno actually played that ridiculous pass to Martial, which he controlled. I think. I
Oh
don't know
yeah, yeah.
What was it for? It might have been for. Was it a Sancho goal?
Was it
Sancho,
Delo? Was it Delo that crossed that?
Second, it was a
No,
second
it
goal.
was no, no. It was the second goal. It came from real deep.
Oh.
I think it was the left channel. It was pretty much one of those Hollywood passes which you kind of.
I think it might have been Rash. I think it might have been Rashford that one
Yeah.
actually. But,
And in fact, what he should have probably done, he should have played the ball to the left hand side where Rashford was running into space, but it randomly got to Martial. So I think probably if he tries that again, a centre back probably heads it away in that. So he's still trying a little bit.
Yeah. Right, we're going to come to some.
Completely.
We're just going to come to some comments now, guys, because people are telling us what their favourite goal is before Reese tells us his, and we come on to the next point. So, John, our good friend John, the third goal was his favourite. Yeah, Sancho's finish was class when he did a little bit of that thing like he did against Chelsea, where he kind of sat the keeper down a bit, and a bit of a shimmy and fired it past him. That was a great one, and yeah, Flex also agrees with him on that one. I think the Rashford one was great. I mean, it looked like the ball was getting away from, I think it was Martial, and his slide back to Donny, and just everybody being in the right position, and more importantly, lots of players being in the box. We weren't committing players into the box a lot especially towards the end of last season. But I think everybody's heads had gone by that point, weren't they? And Andrew also agrees with me on that one. Andrew's lively in the comments tonight, so keep them coming, guys. We will get to all your questions later on in the show once we've talked about the few things that I've got noted down. So, Reese, what was your favourite goal? And then how important is it, do you think, that players look like they want the ball again? Because that's one of the things I particularly picked up on. They all look like they want the ball, and they're all, as soon as they can, if they can't play it forward straight away, the next thought is to do that. I think that's so important. It's something that Rangnick was trying to get into them, I think, towards the end of last season to no avail, but that was pretty much like everything else he tried to do with the squad at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, I think the big thing is, let's not, again, Marius mentioned it in the comments, let's not get carried away too much with pre-season, and we're not, but it's encouraging. It's encouraging signs, and I think you're right. Everybody seems like they want the ball, which is amazing, and I think what's good as well is that people aren't retaining the ball for far too long. They're just giving it quickly. I watched a few. I didn't watch the game. I watched quite a lot of the highlights and the advanced highlights of the game, really. And it was just every time there was an option, it was giving it a player in space, giving it, not holding the ball and going, no, I'll turn back and I'll play a safe pass. It was giving that pass when it was on, and giving those options and trusting your teammates and maybe playing that risk. High risk, high reward, and I think that was encouraging. Watching, as soon as there's an attack on as well, watching all the players bomb forward, all of them bombing forward, and clearly, obviously, all getting back. My favourite goal was the second goal, mainly because of the same reasons you've all mentioned. But yeah, the Bruno one, we got a little lucky with the initial pass. It was a little lofted. It should have been a bit more direct and a bit more pacey, a bit lower. I think he's trying to pick out Sancho on the far right. Probably should have gone, as Kai said, to the left to Rashford, and he's kind of like spooned it a little bit, and it's gone to Martial. But Martial takes an absolute lovely touch out of the air, which kind of sets up the whole goal, really. Then, and if you watch before Bruno plays a pass, the thing that really impressed me most of all, and I was Gavin and Kai have touched on it really in terms of how Donny's fitted into the previous Ajax system and how we can get the best out of him in this as well. Bruno was nowhere to be seen in that move other than that initial long range pass. But if you watch before Bruno plays that pass, just how much, if anybody's on YouTube now whilst they're watching this video as well, they can get 2 tabs up. That'd be, but watch where.
Yeah, don't close us.
Yeah, don't close us down, and we'll go. But watch where he's pointing. He's constantly pointing through the whole move from the pass from Bruno to the touch to Martial to where he's asking to Sancho to play it, to then receive it himself, to then pass it across it. The whole move is just orchestrated by Donny. I know it's executed by the other players, but he's constantly telling and pointing at his players to pass where it's going. It was unbelievable, and I thought Sancho initially played. It was a bit of an audacious pass to Martial to get the ball back off Donny, but I think he plays it through somebody's legs. It's a tight pass, and I thought he was going to play the initial pass to Donny, but what a goal. Unbelievable goal. Pre-season, I know. But it's just a will and a want to try and get on the ball and to play for each other. Nobody's bothered about scoring. Everybody's just bothered about the team getting a goal. And it's impressive. It's great to see. So I hope that we can carry that into next season. And like you say, Simon, really, like, it's just encouraging to see all the players wanting the ball, wanting to get on it, playing those risky passes forward. And it's just pulls apart from where we've been. And I know it's pre-season, but we've got to latch onto something. Otherwise, we'll just be a set of grumpy fellas on a YouTube channel at 10:30 on an evening. So, we've got to be positive about something, United. So, good. It's good news story so far, isn't it? So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got sick to death of talking about how bad we were towards the end of last season. It just became depressing. So you got to enjoy.
Yeah.
You got to enjoy the good things when they do happen. Yeah, there's caveats to it. And actually, this morning I was going to put a ticker along the bottom of the screen that says, "We know it's pre-season. We're not getting carried away," but we're not putting tickers on the bottom of the screen now. So unfortunately, that's not there. So the disclaimer, I will just say it again. We know it's pre-season, but yeah, like Gav said, we have to be positive about what we're seeing in terms of style of play, and because that's something that people have been crying out for years under Solskjaer. They cried out for a defined style of play, and now we're seeing one, and we're getting told off for pointing it out that it's a positive thing coming along. So yeah, I'm happy with what I'm seeing too. I think Kai wanted to touch on something about Fred's role in the build-up as well. Have you been impressed with what you've seen so far from him?
Yeah, well, okay, to Fred's limit, in preseason, he's been all right. But I think for me, it's just the difference was just sort of showing how Ten Hag wants a midfielder who can drop in those positions and start the build-up play and be the one that literally finds those, line-breaking passes, but with consistent accuracy. And for that, you need someone with, of course, a high technical, high technical ability. And it's just interesting for me because he says, yeah, we need someone who plays in a certain position, which is that. But if we don't get that certain someone, then we'll develop a player to be in that position. So when he says something like that, then I look around and see what the players are doing. And I'm saying definitely Scott McTominay is not that player which is doing that. He's pretty much more traditional 8, doing a lot of the running and a lot of the off the ball work. But if you saw how Fred has been coming in deep, collecting, doing the short pass, moving again into midfield, doing a 1-2, going back again into midfield, that is pretty much that De Jong role, which sort of makes me think that he might be the player being developed to be the alternative, in that position if it doesn't work out, or if he's on the bench, or or whatever. So it was just interesting for me to see, because that is actually inherently the problem, having someone who has a technical volatility. So just like sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. In a position like someone like Fred's will always put us under pressure. So it's just it was just an interesting observation which I saw.
No, yeah, I agree, and it looks like there's an ever increasing chance that De Jong doesn't come. So I think he has to be mindful of that fact, and look around the squad and think who's going to take that role. So yeah, I would agree with that. We'll just get some of the comments up here. Apex is saying it's becoming watchable and playing like a big club is what United have not been for years. There are good signs from ETH so far. Yes, I would agree. And I had another one that I wanted to put up. Yeah, Andrew again just saying they look like they're all trying to work as a team rather than passing to their mates or who they consider better players. And I think, there's a little bit of a selflessness, which is great to see. And the last thing I wanted to point out, as Marius has quite rightly pointed out, Reece is rocking the new away kit. It is a beauty, that kit, isn't it? It's definitely my favourite of the three. 100%. Nice little throwback.
I don't get paid for modelling, Simon, so that's free of charge, that one.
Oh, nice one, man.
Yeah.
That's fun. We appreciate it. Appreciate all you do, especially the modelling. Yeah. So we're gonna come on to the next point after we've talked about some positive stuff, but I think we have to touch on the Harry Maguire booing that occurred. I don't know if it occurred because on the back of his pass out at the very start of the game in the first minute or so, or whether it was planned on booing him anyway. But obviously, he had a stray ball in the first minute, and suddenly the crowd were on his back. What did you make of that, Gav? Because I think we talked about it last season when he were getting booed for England and how United fans, would have his back, and that's not the sort of thing that would happen, especially at Old Trafford. Obviously, that wasn't at Old Trafford, but yeah, what did you make of that? Because you can't condone booing your own players, surely, can you? If you're not into how they play, or you don't think they're captain material, whatever, but booing your own players, nah.
The England one was really weird because a lot of the time we get bantered for the performances of Maguire and Lindelof. So for him to get booed whilst warming up, that was a bit of a strange one. But I don't know whether it was some people are still sort of feeling that last season, club captain, we didn't perform. He wasn't really the captain everybody wanted him to be. And then, although he wasn't the only person that was culpable, that goal that Melbourne scored, where, it was a comedy of errors in defence. And I think maybe there's a little bit of a bad taste with a build-up of basically a season of negativity. I mean, at the end of the season, I was contemplating going into hibernation for the summer because I just wanted to sort of turn it off, just turn off everything United, because it was so exhausting. So I don't know whether he, to some people, symbolizes the problems that we've had this last year. And I think people are sort of venting in his direction. But we've never been that club. We've never been that club that sort of takes it out on the players. We actually put our arm around them. Look what happened with Ronaldo, with the Wayne Rooney situation in the, was it the Euros or the World Cup? I can't remember. The wink. When Bex was vilified, never have we been a club that would just boo. And especially in the preseason game, where although he kicked the ball out, Fred's made a career of that. So did David De Gea until this season. So it is a bit odd that he's being singled out. And I just think that maybe a lot of people are saying it's basically him that symbolizes the problems with United. And maybe that's where they're sort of putting their frustrations of last season onto him. I don't think it's justified. I don't.
No, I would agree too. What's your take on it, Reese? I think you were on one of the shows where we did talk about the England stuff, and it doesn't sit right with me, especially when he was having a reasonable game. I think I don't think he's done too much wrong in this preseason, and he seemed to shake off the boos and the negativity anyway, to be honest.
I think it's totally unnecessary. I mean, whether you think he's played well or not, I mean, just in terms of performance against Palace, I thought it was very, very good. I think there was somebody posted on Twitter a stream of the highlights from Maguire the day. Great, granted it's a pre-season again, but he played well, and the outballs to Malacia were very encouraging. I think really, really well. So we said it before about Maguire. Maguire is a good defender when he plays in a position or in a team where we have possession of the ball, where he's in a low block, where he's able to head things away, where he's able to have plenty of time and space on the ball, which, okay, against the better teams, you aren't necessarily going to do. And that's obviously where he's got to improve his game a little bit under that close control, under that pressure. But, it's unfair criticism, and it's not going to benefit anybody. It's like how fans criticise the England team when we're in, or the media do when we're in situations where we're in World Cups and in Euros, and it's not going to benefit anybody really. And booing him, I mean, the thing is with the fans in Australia, with all respect, Maguire's become a little bit of a meme, and they were booing him for what reason? Because that's kind of been the general theme of the year, booing Maguire. So when they got an opportunity, they did that. It's a bit distasteful. I mean, whether they're real United fans or not, or whether they've just come for a one-off game and stuck a United shirt on and just fancied booing him, I'm not sure. I think in terms of the actual United fans, the fans that are on here on the chat and watching the channels and watching the games and getting involved and understanding United, obviously we want him to improve, and I don't think anybody wants to see him play badly, because if he's playing badly, that means United are playing badly. But I said it before, and I think that in the show that we did, Simon, like you say, that we want him to do well, and I think he's definitely got another year in this team to prove himself as captain and prove himself as a United player, without a doubt. I think you've got to give him another season, and if at the end of the season he's had another really poor season, then there's we have to kind of maybe move him on, or we have to think of other options. But booing him is not going to help anybody. It's not going to help the player. It's not going to help the team. It's not the right way to deal with it, is it? But like I say, some people get that kind of enjoyment out of going to games and just doing that. So each to their own. But it's not my view on it. And as I say, I thought he played quite well the other day, and he can only do. You're only as good as your last game, aren't you? And again, just to touch on this, because I know the other guys want to touch on it as well. But we're very quick, and I've said this before. When a striker scores, it's an easy, it's kind of an easy thing to praise them, isn't it? They get a goal. Like Martial's got a few goals now, and we're praising him. The title of the thumbnail. Maguire's had 2 or 3 decent games. We've not slapped him on a thumbnail and started praising Maguire. Not like we probably should or whatever else, because he's been in the team and he's been part of the squad for the last couple of years. But end of the day, he's played well, and we should be praising him for that. But we're almost waiting for the next mistake. I mean, just watching the game, on that Palace game, not to sort of dwell on any negatives there, but I didn't think De Gea had his best game. I think he was at fault for the only goal. But yeah, that aside, Maguire's getting some level of form back, and hopefully that'll only mean a positive thing for United. So yeah, the booing's well out of order, Simon, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that one. We're going to kind of get some viewers' questions in a second with this one, but Kai, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the Maguire booing, and then you can start to take this question as well, which is basically who starts at centre back now Martinez is signed. Now, Eric Ten Hag has said that Harry Maguire is a first choice player in his recent interview, which it might be alluding to the fact that it's going to be them two, possibly, with Maguire has been starting on the right of the centre back pair, and obviously Martinez is left footed. Maybe he doesn't fancy Varane to stay fit, possibly. So yeah, what's your take on the booing, and then who's it going to be? Who's going to be at the centre back?
Well, look. So me as a person, I normally subscribe to the idea that when I watch football, I only watch it so that it gives me good emotions. I understand that the people that are doing it, I cannot control. And I also understand that when they finish on the football pitch, they go home and they kind of forget about some of us, and they have the time of their lives. And on Friday, their bank account comes in. So when it comes to booing someone, that for me is already a stretch. When it comes to being upset for a week at a footballer, for me, that's already a stretch. So I do find, just in any context, when someone is being booed as a person, it's the equivalent of you walking in a hallway and everyone saying boo. Nobody likes it. It's just, no matter where you are, no matter what the context is, it's just something, which you just don't like. So essentially, I just find the principle just not really great. And the idea that it is your captain, and the idea that he is staying, and the idea that he will be playing, but still people feel the need to do this. It just shows it's just a small group of weird people who really just don't understand. They just really actually don't understand the idea. So yeah, so for me, I just found even the explanation, I don't know, it was flying around Twitter about
Oh.
an Australian fan.
Yeah, but interaction with fans, yeah, when they arrived, I think, yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Apparently.
exactly, and all of that, and you know, the fact that he doesn't stop for a million signatures like Bruno, and you know, a whole lot of that, you know, and I'm just like, you know, but a lot of you guys also worship a guy who takes kids' phones and smashes them on the ground when it doesn't go well, like, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's a tough one, you know. Like, so I just think that the same people we let into the football grounds are also the same people that speak a lot of nonsense outside in society. So it's the same thing, really. So I do just think that we should all understand it's a new slate, new manager. He's said, and everyone respects him as the guy that lays down the law. Therefore, his law says Maguire's captain. And also, then the answer which I would have is it would be Martinez and Maguire. Um, by the way, it's not like I love Maguire. He's got so much to make up for. But I also believe that Eric Ten Hag is also giving him either rope to hang himself with. So essentially, I'm going to start you, but it's going to be obvious if you mess up that it's on you. And then he'll have no option but to drop him. Or he's giving him all the confidence because he truly believes that he's a good enough player. Because
Yeah.
the discourse about Maguire in the Netherlands is terrible. Like, it's actually bordering, you know, character assassination because they just bring him up randomly on a league game on Dutch TV. It's always here, and it's always someone absolutely nailing him. Like, why is this guy? You know, he would never be playing in my team. And these are professionals on TV because over here they pretty much, very much say anything on TV. There's no real boundaries. So you've got, you know, Van der Vaart and all these guys who also are in contact with guys like Erik ten Hag and, you know, all this stuff. Louis van Gaal's on TV talking about Maguire, things like that. So it really is like, for me, I'm wondering whether Ten Hag is saying, yes, he is my captain and I'm truly confident, or he's saying, we'll see what happens. I don't want to ruffle the feathers. We just got to keep with the captain, keep the confidence going, and you'll play yourself out of the squad if it so happens.
Yeah. I think you've got a point there. I mean, I mean, there's nothing against him like coming in and making a decision like that, but it would upset the apple cart unnecessarily, and you don't know. He doesn't know the factions within the dressing room. He doesn't know, you know, who's on Maguire's side. Why would you upset the dressing room like that straight away?
And Simon as well. If you see, the only centre backs we have playing on the right hand side is either Lindelof, and then we die by Lindelof on the hill, or we have injury prone Bailly and injury prone Varane. So essentially, the only option really is Maguire based on availability, consistent availability. So, yeah, Martinez for the left foot pass that side, Maguire for the right foot pass this side, or switch diagonal. I think it works for now for the idea, I think.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. We're just gonna. I've just seen this comment there from Marius. Yeah, sorry to call you out for being positive. You lost a lot of faith last year. Yeah, I mean, I think we all do. We forgive you. We understand fully, especially on this show, because I don't know.
We're ready to be hurt again.
Yeah, I'm ready to be hurt again. Yeah,
I'm ready. I'm fully ready.
Yeah, definitely. The last thing I wanted to touch on, guys, I think there's a comment somewhere back there. We had a lot of comments tonight, guys. We're loving the interaction from YouTube and Twitter, etc., etc. Someone asked us about the midfield and what the midfield trio is going to be, but I kind of wanted to go further than that, Gav, and think about what do we think our team's going to be, and does Ten Hag have an idea of what his team is now, other than possibly the fact that, you know, Martinez and Eriksen are to come into pre-season. But in terms of the first game, like again, do you think he knows what he's going to play now? Because we saw players play like 65 minutes, probably going to be 90 on Saturday against Villa. I personally think he's getting a pretty good idea, and there's probably only two or three spots up for grabs, really.
Well, Malacia seems to be making the real name for himself since he's come in, and going by what Kai was saying, you've got Varane and Bailly who are injury prone. So is Luke Shaw. And that inverted wingers, left fullbacks that we've been playing with Dalot and Malacia, it's definitely working. So that back four, Maguire does start the season. He will start the season with Martinez. Whether he'll be there for the whole season is debatable, because it's whether he can adapt to that particular high line and be a capable enough defender to play that system. When he suits really a low block, he suits where he's got a couple of players in front of him, he's closer to the goalkeeper, or he's in the back three. It's like how he plays for England, for instance. But I think it'll be De Gea, Dalot, Malacia, Martinez, Maguire. The midfield three is very interesting because it all depends on how he's going to play Eriksen. Is he going to play him instead of Bruno? Is he going to play him behind Bruno, dropping a little bit deeper, being the more Paul Pogba position? Because that could be quite interesting. Especially, let's just assume for now that we haven't got FDJ and we're going to go with the team that we've got at the moment. I think Fred, for his tenacity, I think he's very good at getting the ball back, and he has played well in pre-season. So for me, I'd probably go with a Fred, Bruno, and Eriksen in the 10. And then the front three at the moment picks itself because of the way that they're playing Sancho, Rashford, and Martial. Obviously, if De Jong does get bought, he automatically goes straight in. And then it's up to you whether you take out Fred. I mean, obviously, you've got to have somebody who's a little bit defensive-minded. But, yeah, I do think, depending on who we get across the line, it's going to be a very interesting first team.
Yeah, I think so as well. I'm just not sure that any of the new signings are going to... Maybe Malacia, like you said. He has done well since he joined up. Reece has dropped out, but he's come back. Yeah, I think Malacia does stand a chance of getting in there, but I'd be very surprised if I saw Eriksen. I'd be very surprised to see Ronaldo as well, even though he's not a new sign, obviously. And I'd be surprised to see De Jong if he does come. But what's your take on it, Reece? How much of that 11 for Erik Ten Hag against Brighton is set in stone, and which places are up for grabs for you?
Oh, it's difficult, isn't it? I think he's getting his back line sorted. I think he likes Dalot, doesn't he? He seems to like Dalot quite a lot.
I prefer that.
Yeah, the Malacia Shaw one's going to be hopefully a bit of a hotly contested battle through the season, which means it's only going to be good because we're going to have two players on form rather than it being two players off form like we've had the majority of the season, where we've had the best of a bad bunch playing, and hopefully it's the opposite way around. But so I think the left back position is kind of up for debate. Obviously, Maguire's going to play, whether that upsets a few fans or not. I think that one's going to be divided, and I think once he starts playing, hopefully starts playing well, let's go with the positive and get some form, and we start winning games, then that will speak for itself. What we've got to do with the back line, definitely with the centre back partnership, is create a consistent bond. All great teams start with a consistent back four, and definitely a consistent back two centre halves. You start mucking around with that and swapping and changing, which we predominantly did last season. There were people in and out. Okay, some of them through injury, but most of it through form. It just disrupts the whole harmony of the team. So Maguire's going to start. Does he like? He doesn't seem to like Varane, does he, too much? And I think probably because he can't trust his fitness. And in a Ten Hag team, if you're not fit, you're not going to play. And that's probably why the reason that Shaw's up for debate as well, because I just don't think Shaw can get fitness across more than 10 games without dropping either his fitness levels or his form or his weight. I think he struggles to keep a certain weight through the season as well. So obviously he's going with the younger guy in Malacia probably. But in terms of the midfield and the front three, I would personally love to see in terms of the front three, because I think the midfield, as Gavin has said, is probably a little bit more difficult to solve. But I think the front three has got to be Sancho, Rashford, and Martial. I think it's got to be. I think that's got to be given time. That's got to be given an opportunity in a game where it matters, a chance to show what it can do. And I hope we see that front three. That's the front three I want to see. To the midfield, it's just going to be difficult. Eriksen in there, Bruno in there, Donny in there. Obviously, they've got a lot of the young players. Iqbal, Garner's been mentioned at pre-season, although we've barely seen him sort of feature. It's difficult. It's really, really difficult. And obviously, if we're trying to get De Jong as well, which sounds like it's probably just dead in the water now, isn't it? And far from it. And it's it's so difficult to say. It all depends, and obviously we're not even mentioning McTominay and Fred as well in that midfield. So it really kind of depends on this pre-season, doesn't it? It's the only way he's going to be able to tell from that. But I think the midfield is massively up for debate. I can't even give you a definitive on that one. But the front three and the back four are pretty much, I think, in his mind where he's at. Obviously, it depends on when Martinez features, comes into training, how that'll work. Will we see him at kind of like the Rayo Vallecano game? That's at Old Trafford, isn't it? Will we see him maybe starting that game? Remains to be seen. But it's interesting. Anyway, that's a positive thing. We've got options, haven't we? And it's nice. So
yeah, it does feel like we have got options, especially with the younger kids, like giving a decent showing of themselves. And Eriksen does add another dimension to the midfield. It's just, he says he sees him as an attacking midfielder, which is, pretty much what he is, but he has said he can play deeper. So there is a chance that he could play further back with Freddie, we also seems to like. So I could see Eriksen coming in for McTominay, and then like you guys have said, pretty much what he's been going with so far. I think Andrew in the comments keeps hammering home the fact that McTominay has something to prove, but I think he probably does. But him and Fred have been the same, haven't they, for years? I mean, they have good moments, they have bad moments. It's just like a lot of the team, it's consistency that we need.
I think with Fred, just to touch on that one, I think as Kai said, I think he's got a level maybe that McTominay hasn't got. McTominay in a Ten Hag team seems a little clunky, and he's probably got a certain level, but it's not the level where Ten Hag wants to go. He's probably got a ceiling level, and that's a problem, really. He does a job, but he's a little clunky in there. But he's a squad player, isn't he? He comes in and he does a job in games where you need him, in League Cup games, in the FA Cup. He's still got a job to do in the team, and that's the whole point.
I think in an ideal world, really, Fred and McTominay would be squad players and really, really good squad players at that, rather than your starting players. But we have to upgrade the midfield first, and we've only made one addition so far, and it's not really one that you normally play further back. So I guess it just depends. Kai, we'll come to you lastly on this one. Just how much of his 11 do we think is going to be set in stone? You've talked about the centre backs already, so we've kind of got that base covered. I think we can all agree that it's going to be De Gea in goal. So then it's just your midfield, your wing backs, and your forwards. So do you think he's got it set in stone now, or close to?
Yeah, I do think the next game, whoever starts in midfield probably will give us a better indication of the direction he's going. Because I think in all the games, I think Fred and McTominay have started together, right?
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
So clearly another manager thinks that you can't ever have those two not together. If one of them is to play, they both have to play. So I guess that sort of, if by the start of the season we haven't gotten De Jong and everything isn't sorted and stuff, he's just going to work with this plan, because 4-2-3-1, Fred McTominay, McFred, but just McFred, 3.0 now, a new version of it. So, I think that could be how he goes in midfield. And I do think, of course, the front three will probably remain, as we said, will remain the same, because I think he's building something in there. Maybe Zidane Iqbal might have a shout in central midfield as an option off the bench, because I've seen him in training, and you see him during the games, and you also see the way he relates to Eric Ten Hag. It seems like he might have some sort of a relationship. He looks like he likes classy players, which is, I think, the one thing we've been missing from the United Academy for a long time. We've always been having the McTominays, the Ilangas, super hard workers, but there isn't that little magic, that little sprinkle of magic dust you want. Garnacho and Hannibal, and then now you've got Zidane, Iqbal, so and Charlie Savage. So you can actually see now that we're going towards technical instead of big and super powerful and just quick. Even Rashford falls into those super quick guy and football IQ this much, and then so I think we're going a different direction there. So I think he might have a chance, and I think next game, when we talk after the next game, I think then we have a clearer indication of exactly what he's thinking.
Yeah, I think so too. With the two games that are not this weekend, but the next weekend, there's one Saturday and one Sunday, isn't there? So I think we're going to see two completely different sides. I think you'll probably see the first 11 at Old Trafford in front of the fans, and that I think that will really hammer home what he's thinking there, unless like we say, Eriksen or Martinez comes in and really hits the ground running in training, etc. Because like I've said before, I know a lot of you think that he could walk straight in, but I think it'll probably be Lindelof and Maguire at the start of the season although Martinez has played for Ten Hag before, hasn't he? So there is that.
No, I think Martinez will go in immediately because, I think that what is crucial, I think he was talking about it in the last interview, is how quick the build-up play is. And if you notice, of course, if you're playing left centre back and you're right-footed, your pass goes this way. I don't know if you can see what I mean, but if you can imagine, if it's going to left back, your pass is basically sort of outswinging sort of thing. So our attacks, if you see Luke Shaw, he controls the ball inwards, and then he has to come on the inside instead of taking it in the stride going forwards. And if you add left centre back, left-footed centre back, your pass is an outswinging pass, which makes the build-up process a lot quicker. So I do think, they call him the butcher. They all say he's mad crazy. So I don't think he's not ready to start a game. I'm sure he's the first one saying, "Yo, get me out there to Perth or wherever you are." So I do think he'll start. I honestly do. I think, this right-footed left center back thing is what actually is one of the key issues in our build-up play over the last year or two, I think.
Yeah, I take your point on that, and I momentarily forgot that Martinez actually played for Ten Hag, so he has less of an issue adjusting to his stylings, etc., etc. So, yeah, fair point. I think we're going to leave it there in terms of the discussion, guys. So I just want to encourage all of you to follow all of our panel tonight, or all their handles are there to follow them on Twitter. Like I said before, if you've been watching on Twitter or Facebook, make sure you're getting onto our YouTube and subscribing. We are 70 away from 6,000, which we are looking for before the start of the season, and I really think we could do that. And I also want to give a few shout outs to the other things happening around All for United this week and generally, really. We got the tactical preview out for the season preview for the strikers, which Stuart and Abdel have done. That's well worth checking out. The one they did before that was very popular, so get on that one. And also, as Gav pointed out, and he's put his own super chat in a stream that he's on because he's a bloody good lad. But obviously, we got All for United women's channel as well, and they're covering a lot of the Euros as well. So be sure to go over there and subscribe to them. The United girls have contributed heavily tonight in England getting through to semi-finals with Ella Toon and Alicia Russo. So well done to them. And yeah, just make sure you're getting on all of our shows. I think you got a show on Friday. Is that correct?
I do.
It is correct. Yeah. So they'll be looking more at the Aston Villa game. I assume that's what you're going to be looking at. And then Cal will be looking back at it on Sunday with the last word. So that's everything. So make sure you subscribe and keep liking and sharing and all that good stuff, and keep retweeting us because we're getting some really good interaction lately, and we are, safe to say, we're loving it. So on that note, guys, I think we're going to end it there. Thank you to my guest, Reese, Kai, and Gav. I've been Simon. We have been All for United, and we will see you next time.